Howdy, folks. Welcome to Grounded, a Homeland Properties Roundtable podcast, where we discuss land, timber, real estate, and everything in between.
Howdy, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Grounded podcast. I'm Mikayla Burris. I'm an agent at Homeland Properties. We're joined here with Walker Powell and Jake Noxon, who's our local game warden here in Walker County. So we're really excited for this episode. We're just going to talk a little bit about what Jake does for us and what he does for the community. So we'll give him a few moments to introduce himself, and then we'll get into it.
My name's Jake Noxon. I've been a game warden for 12 years with Parks and Wildlife. I was stationed in Eagle Pass, Texas for 2.5 years. Wow. And then went to Liberty for 9, and then I've been here for about 1.5 years.
Okay.
So born and raised in Dripping Springs, Texas, married a Huntsville girl, so that's what brought me back to Walker County. Got 2 boys, and I've enjoyed it so far.
Yeah.
What really drove me to do this job was I went to school at Sam Houston State, of course, and got a degree in criminal justice. And I was always growing up hunting and fishing and being in the outdoors. And when I got checked by a game warden by the first time, I was like, man, this is really what I want to do. So
Yeah.
It took me a while to get to it, but it worked out.
Yeah. So. A lot of people have different interactions with game wardens their first time. You know, there's a lot of nerves. So it's it's nice to hear somebody was excited about it and decided to dive into it.
Yes, yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, that's great. So that's what you, from the first interaction you had, that's kind of what you've always set your mind on.
That was it, man. You know, I knew that I probably wouldn't get to hunt and fish as much as I used to.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
you do it 5 days a week. Yeah. You know, on your days off, you kind of want to do something else. But
right.
I still get out there, still hunt and fish, but just not quite as much as I used to.
Right.
With the 2 boys coming up, a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, you know, I'm going to strive to push them in the outdoors.
Yeah. Oh, and that's a good example that you set for them, right? Being conservation minded, following the law, following the rules, and that's a great example for the next generation of hunters.
Yes,
for sure. Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. So I guess, you know, kind of tell the folks what a game warden kind of does on a day-to-day basis, right? What your daily duties are, enforcing laws, protecting the public. How do you go about it?
So a daily basis. So we work an 8-hour day. And we work 5 days a week. So we work 40-hour work weeks. First and foremost, we're state peace officers. So anything that any other peace officer in the state of Texas can enforce, we can do it as well. But our main goal as Texas Game Warden is to preserve the natural resources for future generations. That's
right.
actually our motto. So without us, without having the rules and the regulations on how many fish you could take or how many deer you can kill in a year, without having that stuff, you know, kids learn at an early age in elementary school, what happens to the deer if you shoot them all? Well, they all get extinct, right? So that's our goal, is to make sure that people follow those rules and regulations and make sure that our natural resources are taken care of and protected.
Right.
So.
Right. And that's a moving goalpost at times, right? I mean, as y'all take data and survey wildlife populations, off the top of my head, specifically fish on the Texas coast, those numbers are changing often, right? From keeping 3 trout to keeping 5 trout, depending on if you were in Galveston or Corpus just a few years ago. Those were 2 entirely different numbers. And driving an hour, you know, 2 hours east to Louisiana, it's a completely different ballgame. So
correct.
Having y'all inform the public on what these new regulations are is super important. That way you don't get a big ticket when you pull back up to the boat launch, you know?
Definitely, yes, sir, for sure. You know, we work with other departments within our agency, like fisheries, the biologists and stuff like that, before we go in and we pass these new rules and regulations, which are always voted on by the legislative session, which is going on now, for these rules to be passed into law.
Sure. What are some of those hot topics that are in legislation right now?
So some stuff that's going on right now, we're pushing for a 50-hour work week. So we're shorthanded on game wardens. There's only about 525 of us in the whole state.
Oh, wow.
And that's 242 counties, 43 counties, somewhere in there.
Big state.
So that's not very many of us to cover, you know, a state like Texas. So being shorthanded, we went to the legislative guys up there in Austin and said, hey, you know, maybe bump us to 10 more hours of work week to cover those vacancies that we have within the state to help us, do our duties on a daily basis.
Right.
So,
well, tell us a little bit else about how you're involved in the public. Is there anything that y'all do education-wise, apart from enforcing these laws? How do y'all respond to, natural disasters and emergencies like the big fish kill back in 2019?
So we play a big role in the community by first just doing community policing, pushing our drive for what we're doing as Parks and Wildlife to preserve these natural resources, and making sure that people are educated, one, on the rules and regulations,
Sure.
and two, that they're doing it in a safe manner, right? A lot of people that we come across don't have any understanding about rules that say they're new to hunting or new to fishing, right?
Right.
So we make contact with somebody in the field that is brand new to deer hunting and they're hunting the national forest. Well, we really don't want to write them 5 tickets because they're in violation, because the last thing we want to do is like write them so many tickets they don't want to come back out.
Right.
We want people coming and hunting and fishing and being in the outdoors. I mean, if you look at all of our numbers, hunting and fishing license sales have been down. They keep going down every year. And the reason
Wow.
I personally think that, I could be wrong, but due to kids not getting the opportunity to go outdoors, they'd rather play video games or get on the computer or something like that. We're losing properties that are being developed and stuff like that. So, we don't have the same amount of opportunities for those to enjoy besides the public lands, and plus the price. I mean, it's got very expensive. It went from being being something that you love to do, now it's a hobby.
Yeah.
By the time you pay your lease fees and you get a new 4-wheeler and all that stuff and your rifle. So, yeah, definitely. We go around as game wardens to talk to schools, high schools mostly, colleges. Being a graduate from Sam Houston State, I go up there and I talk to the criminal justice program, because there's people that we like to try to recruit from out of there to come and work for us. We go and speak at Audubon Society. I've spoke at churches. I mean, all kinds of events. Just so that people that have questions, they got a question for me, they can ask you right there in person.
Right.
So,
And all over the state too. Like you said,
definitely.
Eagle Pass and Liberty, Beaumont, now here in Walker County.
For sure, yeah, all over the state.
That's cool, man. You're getting everywhere. Yeah.
Do you have one like memorable case or unique case that comes to mind that you kind of reflect back on or look back or use it as a learning opportunity or anything that's kind of stuck with you over the years?
So probably my first year and a half out when I was in Eagle Pass. When you get down in South Texas, the deer are a little bit bigger than what we have here.
Right.
So that you're having a 180-inch deer, which is the score on the antlers, on walking around in the bar ditch. If we had stuff like that, you catch a road hunter every night, but we don't. So, but down there they do. So there was this one night I had 2 new guys out with me. I only had like a year and a half on. I was still pretty green myself, but I had 2 new guys right out of the academy. They had just gotten there in August, and this was in December, getting kind of towards the end of hunting season. And we had a deer decoy that we set out on a highway out there, and the highway was the only highway that it ran from Quemado, Texas, which was on the north end of the county, and it ran all the way to Brackettville, which was in the next county over in Kenny County. And it was the only highway there that had low fence on both sides. So deer were known to cross back and forth there. So these guys, they want to go out and run this decoy so bad. And I said, man, it is not the conditions to run this decoy tonight. We had just had a cool front come in. It had gotten really cold. It was in the 20s, but the wind was howling, man. It was blowing every bit of 20, 25 miles an hour. And you being a hunter, when it gets windy like that, the deer are going to bed down.
That's right.
But for some reason, they wanted to go. I said, all right, you've been bugging me, but let's just go. I said, but I'm doing easy work. I'm going to sit in the truck and be the catch guy. And you 2 guys are going to go out and run the decoy. So you got to set 2 people on the decoy, or at least 1 person on the decoy. So if somebody does come by and shoot the decoy, if they throw the gun on you, you got to be able to see where the gun went, right? Because it's hard to make a case if you end up making a traffic stop on them and like, we didn't shoot, we didn't have a gun. But if you got somebody there that's shown that, hey, he tossed the gun here, you can go back and find the gun. So they're sitting there, and it's about 12:30 at night or so, and here comes a vehicle down the hill comes down the hill. It's a long stretch, about a mile and a half, 2 miles, and I'm sitting up on the other hill, and you can just see it clear as day. Here it comes, room, and it passes the decoy. Pulls over to the side of the ditch, turns around, starts coming back, and he's on the radio. He's like, "Hey, we got a vehicle, turn around."
It's on. Yeah.
I was like, all right, so just watch. See who the shooter is, see how many people in the vehicle. So when we do make the traffic stop, for officer safety, we can say, "Hey, this is who's in there."
Right.
So he turns back around, and it kind of pulls over in the ditch, and the headlights tilts the front of the vehicle towards the headlights to the decoy.
Yeah.
Passenger gets out, lays a rifle over the hood. And he's like, he's got a gun. He's telling me on the radio. I said, all right, let him shoot. Paya, one shot. He's like, he shot. I said, yeah, I heard it. I said, he's going to shoot again. Him shooting 2 or 3, 4 times.
Wow.
And that deer was on a track system, like a 30-foot track system.
Uh-huh.
So it had a remote control, so it wiggle its tail, and you can move its head and paw
wow.
and stuff like that. So it looked legit.
Yeah.
Right.
And so he moved a little bit on the track system. So I guess he thought he just left.
Missed. Yeah.
Missed it. So anyways, we go knock this guy down. Me and another game warden, he was on the other side, so we had him trapped. So if he went one way, he had him blocked. He came the other way.
Right.
So we stopped this guy, and we made that was our first road hunting case for those guys, and they were super excited about it. So I mean, what's more, catching red-handed right out of the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, that's probably one of the top stories that I like to tell and that people like to listen about. There's some other cases that personally that I think are better just for myself, but
Sure.
as game wardens working together as a team and working something like that.
Yeah.
That's a good case.
That is cool. That's cool. They said that the conditions don't matter.
No,
Or you don't get them.
it's just man, it's being at the right time at the right place is what it comes down to.
Yeah. That's right. Wow. That's a cool story, man. That really is. And that just goes to show you people still do stuff like that.
Oh yeah, no doubt for
Yeah.
sure, man. And
Yeah.
when years ago, an offense like that would just be a handwritten citation. Here, go pay your fine. And now it's escalated to you're looking at felony charges for stuff like that. Where if you are a hunter, you get convicted of a felony. You no longer possess a firearm, so your hunting
That's right.
really cut in half. You're limited to archer equipment, or limited to black powder, stuff like that. So you want to think twice before you make some of these decisions.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You see a lot of that here in Texas, black powder, muzzleloader, stuff like that.
Yeah, especially here in East Texas. And it's not just directed towards those that can't, have a firearm in their possession. There's just a lot of people that enjoy it.
Yeah, I like the challenge.
They do,
Yeah.
they do. And the other thing is too, it gives you two extra weeks on the back end of the season.
That's right.
So, if you haven't killed anything during general season or archery in general season, you get to muzzleloader season. That gives you the opportunity to partake in it.
Yeah. You talk about rifles being expensive. I can't imagine what it is to go buy a muzzleloader
Yeah.
and everything that you need. You got to really be mad at them.
For sure, man. For sure.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, what are some of the challenges and common misconceptions that that people think about game wardens, right? That they're always out to get you, or stuff like that.
Man, it's not. Yeah, that's part of the chase to go catch people. I mean, that's our job, right?
Sure.
But we're not bad people. We're friendly. Yeah, there's a time and place where we got to be a little more stern with folks, and dealing with people and the general public. But most of the time, we're out there for educational purposes. I'd say 95 to 96% of the people that I encounter are good people that are doing this stuff as a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
So the way we approach individuals hunting, fishing, boating is going to be way different than a normal law enforcement officer, because if you encounter somebody just walking on the street as a normal law enforcement, say in Huntsville, carrying a long rifle down Main Street, I mean, they're going to handle that way different than somebody like myself encountering somebody on private property,
Right.
more likely their property, carrying
Right.
a long arm, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you have to be aware of that safety factor for sure, because 96% of the people you encounter are going to be armed.
Yeah.
Pistol, rifle, shotgun,
Mhm.
knife, if they're fishing, something like that. So it's just way different on this side of the law enforcement than it is on the regular
Yeah.
side. But we're good people. We grew up hunting and fishing. there's just, yes, we're out to catch people, but we're not just out to get you, you know.
Right.
Right.
We're not sneaking around, laying in the woods, stuff like that. Most of the time, when we come to these big ranches, we're going to build that rapport with the landowner and let them know, hey, we're here for you as a landowner, and we want to help you out. If you got trespassing issues, or if you got hunters that are doing violations, you know, let us know, and you know, we'll take care of it. So when you build that rapport, they'll give you a key or the combination of the gate, or if they say, hey, just call me when you come on the property, I got no problem doing that.
Yeah,
so
right.
The days of sneaking around and stuff like that, it's gonna be hard to do.
Yeah, y'all are just you're the arm of that checks and balances. That way, the depletion of those natural resources doesn't just happen like that.
Correct.
Right. That is a pretty interesting point, though, that maybe not a lot of people think about, is the vast majority of people that you encounter, especially from, you know, September all the way through, say, the end of, you know, February, or even into turkey season, you know, March, April, May, the vast majority of them are armed.
Correct. Yes.
You know, so you're already walking into a situation where you got to be, you know, eyes on and alert.
A little bit more alert.
What if, right?
What if? You're correct. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. So. Yeah. Tell us about some of the technology that y'all utilize nowadays. How has that helped y'all do your job? You mentioned the you know, the decoy, the deer decoy, and being on tracks and stuff like that. So what other pieces of technology do y'all use?
So we've got thermals that we could use. We use a lot of stuff, night vision, things like that. You know, when we're down, because we work for the state of Texas, we're a state agency. So here recently, they've just pulled us off. But when it was hot and heavy down on the Texas-Mexico border, Governor Greg Abbott asked Parks and Wildlife to go down there and assist with DPS. So we did, and we were working 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And we would use some of this technology to find people coming across the border illegally, such as the FLIR, which is night vision, using our new aviation helicopter and stuff like that to help us out. So all this new technology that's coming out is really assisting us and helping us do our job for sure.
Yeah. And that's all state funded.
That's
right?
all state funded.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There's we were talking earlier. The Texas Parks and Wildlife has a foundation called the Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation, and there's a pretty neat social arm of that foundation, if you will, called Gear Up for Game Wardens, and it's a way that the general public, people like us, can engage with game wardens and can donate, because a lot of times, like you were mentioning when you were in Liberty County, some of y'all's four-wheelers were 30 years old. Yes. Some of y'all's boats, you know, while they're all welds, right? You know, some of those welds can crack over time. I've attended a number of those events, and, you know, in those events we'll raise money and they'll tell us exactly what it's going for. Hey, we just bought 250 new bulletproof windshields for, you know, game wardens trucks, and we just bought drones or night vision goggles or whatever. So it's a really cool way to give back, to help them do their job better, which protects the resources that we like to utilize and enjoy and spend time in, right? You know, we're involved in land and we're selling land, and our customers are, and they've got kids, and we all want to protect this resource. So definitely. I'd encourage y'all to at least go take a look at it. So
yeah, Gear Up for Game Wardens, that's what it is.
Yeah, Gear Up for Game Wardens. It's pretty neat.
They don't want to go on the actual event. I say go to the event because they have auctions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They donate hunts and people can bid on them and stuff like that. But there's actually a website they can go on to. Just go to our Parks and Wildlife site and look up Gear Up for Game Wardens, and you can donate.
Yeah, and take a look around on their website. And Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation, Stewards of the Wild is another great conservation program for folks to, you know, new hunters or people that have done it their whole life, to get together, network, talk about this thing that we all love to do, spend time together, go on big dove hunts, go on quail hunts, deer hunts, whatever, you name it. Texas Parks and Wildlife has a lot of really cool stuff that the general public may not know about. So go do some research about it. It's pretty neat.
Definitely.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Operation Game Thief, and then tell us a little bit about what we got going on this weekend, Memorial Day weekend. So there's going to be a lot of people out on the water. What are y'all going to be doing?
Definitely. So Operation Game Thief is it started off as just a regular hotline for somebody in the general public that could call and give anonymous tips. for game wardens to follow up and make cases on.
Mhm.
So I actually just attended Operation Game Thief clay shoot down in Houston yesterday, which is very similar to the Gear for Game Wardens, but it's just addressed to the Operation Game Thief program. It's a program where we raise funds and they help with fallen officers, fallen game wardens in the line of duty. People that call in and give tips and cases are made, they're asked for rewards, they pay out rewards from it. So there's just a lot that goes on with that program. And it's very similar to Gear from Game Wardens, but instead of being directed funds towards that individual, either game warden in that county, if that person donates from that county, or for that district, it's a statewide deal. But Operation Game Thief is a great program. It helps the general public with, because we only got one set of hours, right? We can't be everywhere. So when we have a number or hotline that somebody can call or text to and say, hey, this is a anonymous tip, this is what's going on, it's going to help us out tremendously. And which comes back to the main goal of protecting the natural resource of Texas.
Like you said, there's only about 500 of y'all, right? In a state this big,
right?
You've only got one set of eyes, and a lot of times there's only 2 wardens per county.
Correct.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
Right? That's a lot of territory to cover.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, we work in over 40 counties, and I couldn't even imagine having to, and some of the ones that we go in, only having 2 people protect, especially when you get in your more rural areas.
Correct.
I mean, having 2 people trying to, look at all of that and monitor all that land and all that wildlife, that's a challenge. Yeah.
Definitely, for sure. Memorial Day weekend's coming up, so along with when we do hunting and fishing enforcement, we do a lot of boating enforcement as well. So this weekend coming up, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, game wardens across the state are going to be hitting the big bodies of water throughout the state, making sure that we're looking for water safety equipment, life jackets, children under 13 that are wearing a life jacket when the boat's in motion, kill switches on boats, registration. Just like on a vehicle, you got to have a registered vehicle to drive on public roadways. You got to have a registered boat to operate on public water. So we're gonna be looking for those things, and of course, BWI enforcement, boating while intoxicated, cases like that, and just making sure the general public's being safe about it.
Right.
Wear your life jacket. Of all the recoveries I've done on bodies of water, I've never recovered anybody that's worn a life jacket. So it might be hot, or it's gonna be hot, but make sure you wear your life jacket. Just don't be afraid of the water. Just respect the water.
That's right.
And you won't have any issues for sure.
Making sure everybody's got a life jacket on the boat. Yes. Right, one per person. Tossables, flares, the whole fire extinguishers, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. Horn, whistle, fire extinguisher, life jacket for everybody on board. If the boat's over 16 foot, throw a cushion. Yeah. And then have your registration. So definitely.
So you said you do a lot of BWIs. I mean, you think, hey man, let's go out to Lake Conroe, or let's go out, to Lake Livingston, or wherever in our area at least, and have a couple beers and drive the boat around. I mean, an innocent thing that people aren't thinking, well, I'm not drinking and driving, but it's actually just as dangerous, if not more dangerous.
It is
being on the water while you're doing that. So
correct. Yeah, for sure. You got to take in all the factors while you're out in the water. I mean, most of the time you're sitting in an open canopy boat, doesn't have any kind of canopy or nothing on it, so you got to factor in the sun, right? If you're not drinking your water, you can get dehydrated. And then the motion of the waves moving you back and forth, all that stuff plays an effect on how your body consumes the alcohol and breaks it down. Right. So if you're in a air-conditioned, climate-controlled area, you might have 2 or 3, depending on if you're a heavy drinker or not, before you're considered over the legal limit. But place yourself out there in the open and have all those other factors add on. It went just probably from 3 to maybe 2.5 beers that you have, and before you know it, you're impaired.
Yeah.
And boats don't have seatbelts on them, right?
No, they don't. Right. Or brake lights.
No,
Yeah.
And if you're in from out of town and you're not familiar with that body of water, I mean, think of all the stumps. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into effect besides just going out there and thinking you're having a good time, and it can turn really dangerous really quick.
Yeah. So. Take your boater education.
Boater education is required. Yes.
Yeah, that's important. It's very, very easy to make a mistake out there. You think you're in this big body of water, and there's no lanes, and there's no turn signals, there's no brake lights. I'm in this big body of water, it's fine. I mean, and every Memorial Day weekend, every summer, you hear about unfortunate accidents and fatalities just on Lake Conroe and Lake Livingston right here. It happens every single year.
Yep.
And on the coast, I'm a big saltwater guy. We just went on a saltwater trip a few weeks ago. And I mean, you just got to be careful and know what you're doing, because it can go wrong like that.
Quick.
Right?
Yeah.
You hit a stump. If the driver's not wearing their kill switch, that boat's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And then if they're not wearing a life jacket, it's even worse. Or on the coast, if you don't know where you are and you run up on a shell reef or, a sandbar, I mean, it can get dangerous fast. So know your body of water and have your boater education for sure.
Yeah.
That's
Correct.
super important.
Especially on a holiday weekend. I mean, we grew up on Lake Conroe, and I think it's considered one of the most dangerous lakes in the state. But on weekends like this, we were drilled by by my parents growing up, because I had a bunch of friends that would have boats, and I wasn't even allowed to go out, because you have so many people out on the water. So many new boaters, people that maybe don't have their boater's license but are able to rent something
Right.
from some of those places on the water, and it's just highly populated, and it can get dangerous quick, and there's a lot of people out there that may not know what they're doing. So it's really interesting to hear some feedback and hopefully get some tips before people get out there, because it can be fun, it can be safe, and it can be great, but it can also be the opposite really quick. So
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess the last thing we'll leave you with is, tell the folks what's some of the best ways that they can, other than go into, I guess Texas Parks and Wildlife website, but how can they stay legal? How can they stay safe and stay up to date with these new rules and regulations? Like we mentioned earlier, at times it's a moving goalpost because conservation and data changes. These surveys change. So how can people stay up to date with this information and ensure that they're abiding by these rules and regulations?
That's a good question. There's a lot of things out there that people can do. One, you can call me direct. I'll give you my phone number at the end of this. And then two, we have apps on your phone now. We used to give out the outdoor annual whenever you bought your hunting or fishing license.
Yeah.
And it was always in a paperback folder. Well, we were talking about technology and how it advances everything. Well, that has gone away because at the end of the year, we were finding ourselves, having to recycle so many of these paperback outdoor annuals. So there's well, let's just get an app. Everybody's got a smartphone. Majority, 90% people have smartphones. So now we have an app you can download. It's called the Texas OA app. You go in there, you download it. It's free. Has all your rules and regulations for any body of water that you can be fishing in or any public land you can be hunting on, and it goes in there and it'll tell you what you can and can't do on those either body of water or that piece of land. So it also has a boating section in there. It talks about the safety requirements that you need for your vessel, depending on the length of it. It talks about how to register your vessel and things of that nature. So Texas OA, it's an app you can download on your phone. So
yeah, very good.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. We really appreciate you joining us today. We appreciate the conversation, and hopefully there's some folks out there that learn a little bit, and hopefully there's some folks that share the message and educate those people that maybe need that education before they go into the outdoors, before they go on the water or in the woods, and just be safe and make smart choices. And y'all help a lot of people stay in line and make those smart choices. So we thank y'all for what you do for us and protecting those natural resources.
Well, thank you for your support. Thanks for having me today, for sure.
Yeah.
I just like to give my number out.
Yeah, drop all your information for the folks.
So my name is Jake, and my last name is Noxon. Noxon is how you spell it. My phone number is 936-346-1045. It's a state-issued cell phone. Don't feel like you're bothering me if you call or text me. It's not a personal number, so you can find my number on the website as well. If you hunt in other counties, if you go to Texas Parks and Wildlife and click on Game Warden, it'll drop down. It'll let you put in the county that you're hunting in or that you're going to be hunting in, and it'll give you a drop down of those game wardens that are there. So depending on those counties, I might not have an answer for you if you call me, if you say you hunt Edwards County or something like that. But if you call that person over there and be like, hey, they can give you a lot more clarity on what the rules and regulations are for that specific county.
Sure.
So definitely.
Sure. Well, good deal.
Cool.
Well, thank y'all for joining us on another episode of Grounded, and stay tuned for our future episodes.
Yeah, we hope you were able to take some information from Jake here and realize that not only are the game wardens out there protecting our wildlife and conservation and other fellow hunters and fishermen and outdoorsmen, but they're also here to be used as a resource. So we thank y'all for watching.
Take care.